making sure you don't go to a social setting really starving hungry. Like I have a pre-dinner dinner. You know, you don't go to an extreme without also having extreme consequences 10 days before your period. I seem to love to just tear my life apart. I'm taking a supplement from a woman who, I mentioned it in a weekly vlog. It was, it's left my brain. It's left my brain. My pre-workout meal was 20 pack of chicken nuggets from McDonald's. Like, how am I going to get any sort of hormonal balance when I'm not sorting out the fundamental things? Hello, my love. I hope you're doing really well. I hope you're also getting into the autumnal vibes at the moment. Thought we could do a Q&A and just answer things slightly unhinged, slightly random, mixture of everything that we've got going on here. And I've done it into little sections because they're all really varied. We've got everything from what helped regulate hormones, my hormones, getting your cycle back, how to fix digestion, bloating, to the moon's effect on energy and flow. These are all my favorite things. I could sit here all day long and talk to you about these things. And I also thought I could just answer any of your current struggles, what you're facing right now, just unpick what's been going on. I feel like we've not had a catch up as well, just you and me chilled by the sofa. So I hope you've got yourself a hot drink. I've got a decaf coffee. I've had a proper coffee today. I've got a little bit of vanilla syrup in there. How did you get your period back while staying lean? I'm going to try and keep these to the point, as in I don't, obviously I could go on and on because this is such a big question in a lot of ways, but I managed to get my period back while staying relatively lean, but still I've put on, what will it be, like 8 kg. I've managed to put on muscle as well. So I did that by committing to a calorie surplus for a long enough time. Like, it's not going to be 6 weeks of a calorie surplus. I've been in a surplus or at maintenance since December. I haven't done any form of deficit within that time frame, and then doing gradual surpluses and not going too overboard. I feel like I did go overboard where I was putting on probably more body fat than I'd liked, and then I just kind of reined it in, but aiming for a really reasonable amount of body fat, because you can only put on, say, a certain amount of muscle each week, each month. So not going kind of beyond that, because what happens is people can overshoot. The likelihood of you quitting sooner, then going into a deficit, is much higher versus if you do a gradual surplus over time. So I was gaining around 0.3 kg a week, which was really a good spot for me because I wasn't noticing, you know, excess body fat in that time. But then I did go into a more aggressive stage where I was gaining about 0.6 kg a week. Again, that was uncomfortable, but it was needed. And I really noticed a difference with my hormones when I did go into that higher rate. But if I was gaining, say, a kg a week, I feel like I would just quit a lot sooner. And another thing to factor in is I consistently trained. So I pulled back my training intensity, still progressively overloaded with 4 gym sessions per week. I stopped running for a total of 3 months. I think that really did have an impact on just helping my hormones to rebalance. I also kept in some steady state cardio, so like a Stairmaster session, 1 to 2 a week, and kept active with my steps. And that is how I'd say I'd managed like my body fat rate of gain, also just kept like my mental sanity. And I say that it's been one of the hardest things that I have done, but that is how my approach was. But I think it's going to look different depending on where you're at now, like how much body fat you realistically need to gain, where your starting point is, like how long you've not had a period. There's a lot of variables. How do I stop binge eating at night or in social settings? So I think this comes down to if you're restricting your food, and it can be counterintuitive. So if you're not having, say, regular meals throughout the day or regular meals and snacks, I feel like that just higher your chance of binge eating. Whereas if you're genuinely eating regular, that you're not going to want to binge because you're satisfied, you're full, and you're getting enough balance from your meals, making sure that each one has got protein, carbs and fats. What I think people can do, and what kept me so stuck, and a lot of girls that I've worked with over the years, I see it time and time again, is they try and undereat, or they try and save their calories for the end of the day, and then they're hungry. And when we're hungry, like, we're going to make quicker choices, or you're going to be snacking away as you're making your dinner, and just everything sort of goes out the window totally. So I think that's more of a mentality switch, making sure you don't go to a social setting really starving hungry. Like, I have a pre-dinner dinner that always helps, and means that, say, if there's food there that I don't usually make at home and whatever, I'm less likely to go and like overindulge in that because I'm not ravenous hungry. Do I really need to track macros to lose fat, or can I eat intuitively? Say if I'm trying to lose fat and eat intuitively, I personally find that really difficult, and that is just, I'm just being totally honest with you, I have found it works best when I track my macros, and it doesn't have to be every single day. I just feel like having a flexible approach works. However, if you are someone who intuitive eating works well with, then you could just look at what you're currently eating, like day to day as in your meals, and just think, right, where could I maybe reduce a little bit of everything, for example, to create a calorie deficit. But I think what can happen is you either undershoot and end up not eating enough, meaning that it's really hard to stick to, as in like stick to your meals, or you just don't actually have much awareness around what you're actually eating, which is why I think macros can be a really helpful tool. So what I would say is just find out what your calorie deficit macros would be, even if you just do it once a week, and then reverse engineer that. So look at, right, what would a day's worth of meals where you've got 4 to 5 meals and snacks spread out across the day that you've input into, say, MyFitnessPal, or matched it to the macros that you want to hit, and then you just follow, say, the meals, and you can swap out things like, you know, it's not just the same meal plan every single day or following a meal plan, but just thereabouts. So you've got your chicken breast or like your lean protein sauce with your sweet potatoes or rice, and just following it that way. So I think that would work intuitively, just making sure that you're balancing out your meals. So from that side of things, definitely. But it is about, when you are trying to lose fat, you want to create that energy deficit. So how are you doing that? And I think for me, I failed so many times because I thought I was in a calorie deficit, but I was probably like 500 calories overeating a day, and I wasn't consistent with my exercise. So I wasn't maintaining that energy deficit, and you can end up spinning your wheels for a long time. How can I gain muscle without putting on too much fat? Okay, so this is about creating a small calorie surplus over time that you're consistent with, that isn't too high so that you're just putting on more body fat than muscle, because we can only put on a certain amount of muscle within a time frame. You also want to make sure that you're resistance training, so you need to be stimulating your actual muscle enough. We need to lift heavy enough so that we are stimulating that muscle, so that our muscle can then repair when we've, say, torn the muscle, which is what we do when we train close to failure, for example. And when we are struggling in those last reps is when we make the most progress in terms of being able to put on lean muscle tissue. So there's that. So making sure you've got a program as well where you can progress over time rather than random workouts. That means you're going to be able to put on muscle in the areas to create illusions as well of a more sculpted physique. For example, I've managed to put on muscle and size so that my waist doesn't look massively different to when I was carrying less body fat, if that makes sense. The other thing is just being consistent with some form of cardio, whether that's just your outdoor walks day to day, so keeping in your step goal as well as your lifts. I think a lot of people, when they do, say, a cutting phase, they have cardio in there, and then when they do gaining phase, they take out all the cardio, and that's when you can end up putting on a bit too much body fat. But it's just finding what works best for you and your lifestyle, really. What's the hardest part about being in bikini prep, and would you do it differently? Oh my gosh, the hardest part was post-show, just the psychological effect. Like, I would consider myself mentally really strong. You know, I feel like I've been through some tough stuff in my life, but I've never messed so much with my head and how I perceived myself with what bikini prep did. I was aware of that, but it's another thing going through it, because like your mind adapts to seeing yourself a certain way. Oh, just a real tough mental side when you're putting on weight. You've gone from spending 6 months seeing something go down, and then psychologically you're then seeing it go up. Oh, just so challenging. I would say the prep itself was hard, hunger was very hard, and I question my life choices now because it's taken me a long time to get my hormones back right, and I just don't think that's shared enough. As in, you hear people like, oh, I've got hormone struggles, but what does that actually mean? Just how it can impact your whole life, your work, your energy, how you're showing up, and just your personality. I'd say that's been the hardest part, and like the knock on, you know, you don't go to an extreme without also having extreme consequences, and that's been like a life lesson. I didn't expect that from prep. Like, prep, in hindsight, I sacrificed so much, and I had 6 months where I didn't really see my friends and family, or I don't feel like I was present at all the whole time I was in scenarios like that. My mind was elsewhere, which is like the mental side as well, of like when your hormones are down, and I just don't feel like I was thinking super clear. So that is actually what I'd say, like, that's been way harder than the actual dieting phase, because with dieting and you're getting so much dopamine, and it is coming from the wrong places as well, you know, with stuff like that. Whereas when you're in the other phases, you're not getting those wins, you're not getting the same attention and all that. Then we've got when reverse dieting, how to not gain all the weight back. So this is mainly your lifestyle. You see this quite a lot, like people lose a lot of weight and then they yo-yo straight back and more within like a few weeks, especially competitors in bodybuilding. Like, it's quite common, like people can put on 7 kg in like a week or 10 days. So it's being strategic. If you've been on a lower end of calories, not jumping up too high, you know, like if you were to add on an extra 700 calories a day, like what do you expect? Like, there's going to be sort of different variables that come into that. So it's doing it gradually. So for my reverse out of a dieting phase, it was increasing my calories. I did go from an initial sort of low to, I think it was about 400 calories a day, but that kind of counteracted because I then immediately had a lot more energy for my training. My output was actually, you know, like a little bit higher, as in I was pushing more in my sessions, so getting more from that side. So it did sort of balance out. And then from that point onwards, it was like 100 to 200 calories a week. was it a day increases about that, and taking your own biofeedback based on how you're feeling your training sessions. It took me a good few months to feel good and like I could actually get a pump in my training sessions, like get blood flow to your muscles and also just feel like a normal person again. It's taken longer than what I thought, just to have like my mental side of things back and feel more like myself personality wise. But yeah, ways to not gain it all back as well is just to keep consistent habits. So say if you've been doing consistent cardio in a phase, you want to taper that down, of course, but still keep that in there. So I've kept my step goals, they're about similar, reduce them, but not taking it out totally. And the same, just doing things in nice, gradual, like incremental ways. Then we've got what supplements do you actually take and why? So off the top of my head, I'm taking a lot at the moment to help with my hormones and what I've been recommended by specialists. So turmeric and black pepper and curcumin is what I take. That helps with inflammation. I then take supplements, which by the way, these are just all unique for me and my goals. I really feel like we all have quite a unique stack, although magnesium is one that I feel like every woman can like very easily be deficient in and not get enough, and is a game changer. Just sleep for how you feel and is a real common one that people can be deficient in. So I have magnesium before I go to bed. That also can help with your digestion too. But mornings I take my turmeric, omega-3 which is fatty acids, good for your brain health, hair, skin, nails. Then I've got my primrose oil, which is to help with hormone balance. I take a PCOS blend for my PCOS, which has got minoxidil, which helps with all my PCOS symptoms. And then I take ashwagandha, which is really calming on my nervous system. That's an adaptogen. I love an adaptogen. I actually had a call the other day with the pharmacist who makes this PCOS supplement that I take, and that's got berberine in as well. I also take Vitex. That's been really helpful with my hormones and can help with your brain hypothalamus connection, all this stuff that I've really learned this year. I also take digestive enzymes, like a probiotic to help with my digestion, mainly after big meals. Then it's not a supplement as such, it's a natural herb. So I have proper spearmint tea leaves basically, which is to help with my PCOS. So that can help if you have high testosterone. I actually have high testosterone, but you tend to have higher androgens in sort of excess. So 1 to 2 cups a day of spearmint tea, not peppermint, spearmint, which is actually quite hard to find. You can get it on Amazon or like Whole Foods sort of organic shops. So I have that daily. I've just loved going more into like the natural remedies, natural herbs, medicine. I've tried everything this year. I've been to Chinese medicine practitioners, and not just one. I think I've been to 4, especially when I've been moving around, and I was getting acupuncture 3 times a week at one point, which was flipping amazing. I also have tried a herbalist. I'm always open to trying new things too. I'm taking a supplement from a woman who, I mentioned it in a weekly vlog. It's left my brain. Left my brain. But I've tried a lot of natural remedies. Always want to do things the natural way if I can. Then we've got, do calories and macros really matter for fat loss, or is it overhyped? Yes, 100%. You've heard me probably say this before, but calories determine your body weight, macros determine how your body looks and how your body functions. You know, if I had 2,000 calories eating just burger, like over processed food, versus 2,000 calories of whole foods, like single ingredient stuff that comes straight from the ground, hasn't been overly processed, it's going to be 2 different people in every kind of way. Like, I'm going to be clearer mentally, I'm going to have more energy, and my skin's going to be better, all that stuff, versus that over time it's not going to look good. That being said, I do believe in 80-20. There's a time and place for a burger, but I'm just meaning, you know, day to day, if that's all you're eating, you're just not going to feel great. I used to, when I was, like 16, 17, my pre-workout meal was 20 pack of chicken nuggets from McDonald's. That was like, I just had a different, I don't know what I was thinking back then, but it's quite funny to think back. Don't worry like where you start. I started that. I'd have like a whole pack of digestive biscuits before I'd go and train. What helps you regulate your hormones and get your cycle back? So it hasn't been one thing. I so wish that it was just like one quick fix, one supplement, or like one thing that you would eat. It's been an accumulance of a lot of different things, but I would say changing my lifestyle has been the biggest one. So reducing my stress. And when you hear people say, oh, reduce stress, what the hell does that actually mean really? Like, it has been looking at the whole picture. Literally, I had to take myself out of my life, like literally imagine myself that I'm on the planet, here I am, and just thinking, right, let's pretend Olivia's not Olivia, zoom out, go to space and just look, right, Olivia, how are you running your day-to-day life? And I had to really look at it like that. And I was realizing I was not, like 5 to 6 hours sleep a night was not enough. Like, how am I going to get any sort of hormonal balance when I'm not sorting out the fundamental things? I had a 6 a.m. alarm, which I have now, but I was going to bed really, really late and not really thinking about it. I was just like, right, no, I need to be disciplined. I need to get up at 6 a.m. But not bearing in mind, like, I need to be disciplined with my bedtime so that I can actually get at least 7 to 8 hours sleep. So looking at that, thinking, right, this needs to change. So it had to go back to like, how am I working? What's causing me to overwork? And why am I eating my dinner at 10 o'clock at night consistently? And I just had to get honest with myself. I really wanted to sort my hormones out and sort my life out. I'd say sleep first and foremost, and then just committing and knowing that I'm going to get uncomfortable. It's not easy gaining weight. It's way harder mentally, especially as a woman. I'm not going to sit here either and sugarcoat it, because it's been so challenging, like really well and truly. And I've had to battle. I felt like from January to March was like battling with my head every day, which is why I never say never, but I can't see myself doing another bodybuilding show for that reason, because I've never experienced that kind of like mental dialogue before. And it's been so challenging. Like every day I was like challenging myself. It just not stole, but I feel like just dulled my spark for a long while, and it's been hard to get through. So eating more, having more carbs for one. I feel like they were too low for too long. That didn't help with my hormones. Like people going about healthy fats, but you also need carbs for your body to feel safe and secure. Then getting help. I feel like I tried to do things on my own for a bit too long, but I didn't have the understanding, and now I've like my knowledge has expanded so much. I have still so much to learn as well around PCOS, around ovulation, hormones in general, balancing your hormones, just getting specialist help where you can, even if you're not in the position to say pay to go like to a private healthcare provider. There's so much online now, so just constantly educating myself, and I found it really fascinating as well, and just like diving into that. But I think that's helped as well, understanding like, right, okay, this food helps for that, increasing fiber intake, like getting good fiber in there, and then reducing my workload. Like I just had to change how I was working, because I'd burnt myself out and not really realized it, because I loved the process, but I was like, I can't go on like this. But this has also impacted my health. Like I think it was such a mixture for me getting into the pickle of like, it was a lot of things, like my PCOS symptoms, amenorrhea, a bodybuilding competition, the whole works, moving countries, like being just here, there and everywhere. So addressing all of those. How do I fix my digestion and reduce bloating? So there's so many things to this, but first one is, are you eating regular enough? I think we can overlook it, but if you're not spacing out either your meals, or you're having say like a big meal in the evening and you might have just had breakfast that day, but you're thinking, oh, I'll just get all my calories in there, like that's not going to be great for your actual digestion. Then it could be other things, like you might be having lots of sweeteners. I feel like this is something that we don't always consider, and what I've learned throughout the past year is just how much that impacts your inflammation and just digestion on a whole. Like I'm always quite inflamed everywhere if I'm having a lot of excess sweeteners added to things, especially fizzy drinks. I didn't realize how much they were impacting just my digestion. So looking at stuff like that. So start with having a little note on your phone just after you eat certain things and seeing if there's any triggers. I feel like common ones can be gluten and dairy, especially if you are also a PCOS girly. I notice that I love dairy. I love dairy so much. I could just live off yogurt, to be honest. But if I have yogurt and cottage cheese a lot of it, and milk in a day, like my skin just breaks out. Just creating some awareness in your notes, like keep it really simple. Big raw salads can really mess your digestion up, because it's hard to digest in comparison to say cooked veggies. Can stress and overtraining really stop your period? Yes, 100%. It's not just one thing that stops your period. I don't think it's a combination of it all. And especially if you're someone who can just go in hard, like our bodies are baby makers, aren't they, at the end of the day? So they're actually going into a survival mode to protect you. And they're saying, you're not ready, you're overtraining so much, like how would you be able to keep a baby alive at the end of the day? How do I balance gut health and eating the foods I actually enjoy? There are so many ways. I think it's about getting more into a testing kind of phase, as in like just trying foods that you've not had before, cooking things slightly differently, using things like olive oil to make things crispy. And you can make so many swaps and changes. Like say if you like crispy sweet potato but you don't want to put flour in, like if you're making like a potato and you want them crispy, you can make oat flour, just like stuff that agrees with you a bit better, and it becomes addictive when you start feeling really good. Also just adding things in like kimchi that is super flavorful. You can get like a chili flavor, getting creative with your spices, seasonings on things, and keeping things you enjoy. Like I love most dark chocolate, but my favorite is it's like a 60% one, so it's not the highest in cacao, say, compared to like an 85%, but I flipping love it. So I want to keep that in on my morning oats, and I'm not going to take that out. Like I think, I also agree with like life is too short to be just eating plain foods. Totally, like have stuff that you love in there and just find other little swaps. Say if you are recently diagnosed with like a gluten intolerance or anything like that, there's so many alternatives, and it's important to keep joy and happiness. Like food is so much more than what we think it is. Then we've got some mindset, spirituality and journeying questions. So how do you actually stay balanced without burning out? This is a really good question, and I feel like only you know this answer, because your body tells you what is too much, and sometimes we just get so busy that we forget to even tap into that little part of ourselves that is our superpower and should be harnessed every day. I think it takes time. I remember thinking, I can't even tell what my body's saying or like what is too much, because I just overrode it so many times in the name of discipline. I think you get to a point as well, if you're unhappy with what you're currently doing and feel like you're being dragged by your daily routines and you've stopped enjoying it, like that is a red flag in itself, and something needs to change. And that change usually needs to be drastic. That's what I had to do. I just had to look at my life, because your body eventually says no, which is why people end up with hormone imbalances, losing their period. That is literally your body screaming at you, and you've ignored the little whispers to the point of that. So just doing that to begin with. And what is your promise that you want to keep to yourself in this season of your life? Like, what is important to you? Like, one of mine has been making time again for my friends and family, which I feel like I put to the back seat because I was putting, say, business first, or putting other priorities first, like fitness and, you know, like more athletic goals or whatever. And then I just thought, actually, friends and family can wait, when actually I've realized that's so important to me, and I didn't quite realize, or I wasn't making the time for that. And I've had to be disciplined with that. Just because you might not gain like you would in business, that, you know, like you could be getting a win, say if it's monetary, say if it's a promotion at work, or if it's a new relationship or something along those lines, or like you're renovating a house or buying a house, like that's very, you know, you're getting something. Whereas friends and family, it's all about like connection, feeling good and making memories together, and that is just as important as any other goal. And I think, yeah, you go through stages to learn that about yourself. So being disciplined with the things that mean the most to you, and it could feel counterintuitive, and just like when you first start the gym, it feels like challenging. You're having to go up against your mentality every day, like getting yourself to the gym, but then that becomes a habit. So just being consistent, making whatever goal it has. So if you do want to spend more time and invest more into like your friendships again, what does that look like? Like, don't just say it in your head, like put it into your diary. If it's once a week, once every fortnight, commit to it. You can work out what fills my cup, like how do I feel when I'm doing certain things, and if there's stuff that's just draining you, like maybe your step goal, for example, is just been too high. If you're trying to hit, I don't know, like a 15k step goal every single day, that is like 4 hours of walking a day. Would you be better stripping that back to 10k steps and maybe eating slightly less food if you don't want to put on more weight that you would burn in them extra 5k steps? You know, just like framing stuff different in your mind and finding your new balance in the name of discipline, but in discipline that is for like your highest, best self, that has you feeling really good. Then how do you balance discipline while still having fun? Kind of similar question actually, and I really like that one. So what does it look like to you, to like what is fun to you? Because we've all got different ideas of fun. I have started adding that back in. So I love socializing, I love going for dinner. I feel like food is something to be enjoyed with people, and I love events, I love scheduling things, I love getting dressed up. That is my idea of fun. But I also love 6 a.m. mornings. So it's just like, okay, I'm gonna book an earlier dinner reservation, you know, like rather than if I'm eating dinner at 8 o'clock, but then still having flexibility. Like on weekends, I tend to be more social, eat out more, and then just like slot that in and around my goals so that I'm still, you know, like ticking all my boxes. There's going to be days where it's like feels a little bit like it's over one, say if everything's like a balancing act, like then a tip over, it's going to do that, but it's just like about maintaining this kind of middle. Next is, what is your journaling routine and how has it changed your life? I've got my little journal. Why did I just put that on my head? I've got my journal bag here. Where have I put my journal? It's knocking around somewhere. So it is so simple, and I think that's why I love it so much. I've bought loads of journals in the past where they've been so many pages long. Like, you know, at the start of every year, you're like, right, sorting out my whole life. You get this journal or a notepad or whatever, and you write just down so much, and then you never return to it. I was like that with journals, and it's only this one that's really stuck because it's the prompt that I've come back to. So I've tried a lot over the years, and there's around 7 prompts in my journal. It takes less than 5 minutes, and it's focused around gratitude. My actual routine with it is I wake up, I meditate, and then I just do my little 5-minute journaling. I make my coffee, make my breakfast, get to the gym, and that is literally it. Really simple. I do it all in the same spot. I think that really helps keeping a routine, and you need to do it for long enough for it to stick. You might have a good week and then you might get distracted the next week, but you just come back to it, and it takes, what is it, 56 days or longer than that, 70 days to actually build a habit. So you need to bear with it, but the minute that you get into your head like, this is going to help me attract more money, attract better things into my life, and you kind of work it like that. If you've read Atomic Habits, you'll know about habit stacking. I stack mine with my coffee because I love a coffee. I'm never going to skip a coffee, but I might want to skip my journaling or meditation. So I just have in my head, I'm not allowed my coffee or my breakfast until I've done my little rituals, and that always powers me through. So just stacking it with stuff like that really helps. I've also seen some girlies who have bought the journal, they have it by the kettle, which is such a good idea. So when you're making your cup of coffee or your tea, it's right there. How do you keep your mental health stable when life feels heavy? I have days, moments, especially in my like late luteal phase, you know, that 10 days before your period, I seem to love to just tear my life apart and make really drastic decisions that I regret within days. So I would also like to know that question, but I've got my strategies. First of all is I check where I am in my cycle. Like if my mental health is in the gutter and I'm thinking really negative, I just go on my calendar and see in my app where I am in my cycle, and it tends to almost 90% of the time be around my luteal phase. So that's reassuring, isn't it? You're just like, I'm not crazy, I'm just due on my period. But if you're also someone who has got imbalanced hormones, it's challenging to know where you actually are. But just having that in your head to begin with, and then just looking at stuff like, right, what can I do in this moment? I am someone who gets really overwhelmed, and I just think, right, what are the 3 things that I can do that's going to help? And one thing I got from my therapist is she always says to me, what does Olivia need today? So what do you need today? If you're feeling heavy, what do you need today? Don't have any guilt. You might just need to sit and watch like your favorite series on Netflix. Like that might all you need. You might just need to go around to your friends or families for a cup of tea and just talk things out. You might need to overhaul your whole life. You might need to just tidy up your house. Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you need in this moment? If there's something that comes to your mind, pop it in the comments down below. That I would love to know. But keeping my mental health stable is meditation and journaling. Like I honestly wouldn't be here, I don't think, if I hadn't. That's quite a strong thing to say, a bit extreme, but I'm not sure. I genuinely feel like they have carried me through my darkest moments, especially this year. I've had a lot, and it's also helped me with introspection because you're continually learning like how to combat things. Do you believe in the moon's effect on energy and flow? Oh my god, yes, 100%. So you may know this, you may not. The moon actually controls the waves. And if you think about water, we are made up of water, aren't we actually? And if you think about the moon's effect on the tides and also the waves and all of this, like obviously it's going to have an effect on us. When I learned that, like that just made my brain go like, ooh. So the moon definitely does have an effect. I feel like I try not to look in too much when we're in Mercury retrograde, because I feel like you can create your own kind of like bad luck. I don't check it every single day, but I do feel like I'm so in sync, as in I've had times when my period has like synced with the moon. You know, when we've got like recently had a blood moon, and usually what is sort of been spoken about, I resonate with so deeply, like, you know, just like on a deep level. So that makes me really definitely think it does have an effect on flow and mood. And whenever we have a retrograde, I do notice I feel like everything's broken electrically. So 100% yes, I find astrology fascinating, but just like anything, I try not to read into it too much, because you can relate to a lot of stuff, really, can't you? Then how do you use visualization and journaling to stay consistent? These 2 things have just changed my life. So visualizing, like I always do this inside the Flowness Club with the Flowy Girlies, which is visualizing exactly what it is that you want to be, what you've got in your mind, what we all have, and tap into that. What does that person feel like? Say if in a month's time you want to feel a certain way, you want to achieve a certain goal, you need to get used to imagining what that would feel like whatever it is that you're trying to bring into your life, and really tap into what does your day look like and really feel it. And once you feel that emotion, that means you can follow up with actions towards that thing, and just makes it a lot more tangible too. So I'd say, yeah, that definitely is how I stay consistent. And everything starts with just like a visual in your mind. You can't action anything without a thought. You know, some people are like, oh, you can't just manifest and think about things, but you can't take action without a thought. You know, I can't go and make my cup of coffee without a thought of first, oh, I would like a coffee. It does help you stay consistent, because you're tapping into something deeper. Like you're not just thinking, oh, I want to achieve this thing, but why? Why do you want to get in shape? What is that going to mean for you? What does it mean for your days? Like breaking it down, going backwards and thinking, right, this would mean that I'm showing up consistently with structure every day. That's going to make me happier. That's going to align with my long-term health goals. If you are trying to manage certain conditions or trying to just improve your energy day to day, your mental health, like everything goes in one. Then we've got, did you go up a clothing size when building muscle? I'd say I went up like 1 clothing size, but I don't know really. So I'm generally a size 8. I feel like when I was prepping and lighter, I was about a size 6 and extra small. Although I was still small in other things like tops, I was still small and my clothes still fit me, but there are things that are tighter. It's mainly bras actually, I feel like don't fit, and I've just got rid of those clothes anyway, but not really. Like I'm still between a size, like yes, about a size 8, which is, isn't it weird how you can put on 10 kg and still be the same clothes size? I don't know how that math is mathing. Then what's your current training split and why? So my current training split is 4 gym sessions. I'm currently following the Booty and Balance program, which is 4 gym sessions. So it's 3 low body days, 1 upper, with some core in there. So we've got more of a core focus, big glute focus, and that is just in alignment with how I love training. I love doing like a full body training approach. I love feeling strong. Hypertrophy is my style of training, so trying to put on muscle in the areas that I want to create like a sculpted hourglass type physique, but very athletic as well. So we've got cardio in there as well, twice a week. So usually on my rest days, that is what's currently looking like. And in those cardio sessions, one of them is usually an outdoor run, and just having flexibility in my actual training. I feel way more athletic with my current split, as in it's more of a like full body focus. We've got a glute focus, but just feeling really strong in these sessions and not training that you're just killing your nervous system, you know, being able to put on lean muscle in the areas. And I'm staying around maintenance, so just sort of body recomping at the moment. Then what are your current goals now? I have a feeling this was more around like fitness. So right now it's just mainly getting my hormones as optimal, and not optimal, as amazing, not optimal. I hate the word optimal because that's neither great, not good, but just, yeah, really managing my stress. I'm currently doing the Back in Flow challenge following that Beauty and Balance program. Got that wrong, but we're doing Back in Flow challenge, which is a 56-day challenge. You can still join if you want to get involved, by the way, inside the Flowness Club. You get your training program, you get support each week, accountability, and we've also got some really fun meetups, and there's also comps that we do every week, so you can win winner of the week. You can also win £500 at the end of this challenge, which is exciting, and a Ninja Creamy as well. I digress. So current goals are mainly just to, yeah, optimize everything right now, like how I'm working, and find a new flow, new routine, and just live a healthy, like happy lifestyle. So I'm adding a lot more balance in, training well, eating well. I haven't set out any specific, like I've not got a marathon in mind, just because I'm more like health focused right now. Like I've had to really work on my hormone health, and that's actually meant taping back a bit on the intensity, like not doing a madness basically anymore, and just more focused on recovery and finding a good balance where I can like put all my time and energy into how I'm working it back into my friends and family. So that's just kind of where I'm currently at. Would love another fitness goal. Like, will I go down the High Rocks route? I don't know if it's for me actually. Sometimes I see the big High Rocks bags and it gives me the ick a bit. I don't know why. I don't hate on anyone doing that, but I just don't know if I can see that for myself right now. But I like that stuff. Like I love running, I love lifting, so it would kind of make sense. What's your favorite perfume right now? I love how I've just gone from like heavy stuff to that. My favorite is the Loewe. I'll put a picture on the screen, but it's this one, really nice everyday scent. I've nearly finished it actually. It's so nice. It's like fresh, loveliness. What is the biggest mindset shift you've had this year? This is a nice question. Oh, just to think of like your long-term self and being able to put that forward first. I feel like before this year, I feel like I've just been like young in some ways in my mindset, you know, just with like not really thinking of the long-term consequences. And I feel like that's something just as you're getting older, I'm 27 now, that's just something I've definitely noticed in myself, like just thinking of like, right, what is going to help me most long-term, and being able to think a bit more rather than what's going to help me in the next 2 months, thinking more like what's going to help me in the next 6 months. If you can get from 2 months to 6 months, it's a big jump. But yeah, that wraps up today's Q&A. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I hope you've got any advice that you needed in today's video, and I hope this has come at a really good time for you. It's been really nice just to catch up, answer your questions. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Lots and lots of love.